All right, welcome back to episode 4 of the Hustler's Circle, 3 Minds, 1 Mission. And we're back from London, which was our previous recording. And also, we have a new president-elect. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about the impact of having President-elect Donald Trump coming into office in the next 3 months. And I'm really excited for this conversation, primarily because the last time he was in office, there was a lot of economic boom across not only the global markets, trade, but also small businesses benefited a lot. But in the same token, a lot of people weren't ready for it because they didn't fix their credit. They didn't prep their business profiles to be at the right place. So I definitely wanted to jump in on that. I'm going to start with you, Alex, just because you have been a proponent of small businesses booming during periods where they're coming out of a recession. And it's been clear, all the data shows, whether the media wants to admit it or not, that we've been stagnant, right? Prices of everything has gone up. Even as a business owner, when we're purchasing packaging material, tape, content items, everything's at least 15 to 30% more expensive over the course of the last 12 months. But I just want to get your thoughts on how you feel the stock market, crypto market, and I don't want to go like really crazy into specific cryptos, but you're in this space, in that mindset, and you can give a lot of information to our viewers on how this new president is going to impact small businesses in general.
Definitely a lot of good points that you brought up, right? Like, go based off how the country looked 2020 to 2024. How did it look 2016 to 2020? One of the most important things to look at in those two different time frames is what the government did to stimulate the economy. What special programs were given out by the government to stimulate small businesses? We know that the country's ran by small businesses, not big businesses. So what do those small business owners need to start proactively doing right now so that when these programs roll out, they qualify? They get the highest credit limits. They get the highest, limit for the loan, the lowest interest rates. Number one, it all starts with your credit. So that is always, number one, right? Where's your credit profile at? At a minimum, you should be over a 660. Why do I say that? Let's go back to 2020. Let's go back to when we had the COVID disaster, and the first thing Donald Trump did was give out SBA loans, right? He brought down the interest rates from the SBA to 3.5% over 30 years, something that's never happened. What were the qualifications that the business owner or the business owners had to have at that moment in time to qualify for the loan? I can tell you, I remember them. You had to have a 660 credit score. So if you're a business owner and you're listening or you're watching this video right now, no matter how big or small your business is, no matter how much revenue you do or don't generate, big or small, get your credit above a 660. What's stopping you? Is it hard inquiries? Is it a late payment? Is it a collection? You don't necessarily have to fix your credit with us. Go to any agent out there, seek help. So this isn't like me pitching to you guys, hey, sign up with us. Yeah, we would love your business, but do it for yourself. Be prepared for yourself, for your business, to help stimulate the economy. Have a 660 credit score, number one. Have your tax returns ready to go, number two. Have a P&L in place in case they ask for you. You don't want to wait for people to ask you for things to then go scramble, call your accountant. Hey, I need the docs. He doesn't have them. He needs 2 weeks to make them. The underwriter from the loan company is not interested in your case anymore, and boom, you never got the loan. So like I always say, the word I like to use the most in business, proactive. Be proactive. Have your credit ready to go as of right now. Have your documents ready to go, tax returns, P&L. Have your bank statements ready to go. Make sure your business with the state of Florida is filed correctly. Make sure it's paid up to date. Be prepared for when these programs roll out, you're ready to apply. That's my best advice. I'm taking that advice myself. I know my brother already knows all these things too, and you know these things as well. We're prepared on all 5 of our businesses. We have the docs, we have the P&Ls, we have the credit. We're ready to go.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point. And I think, and we'll leave something in the section below for descriptions on like potentially like a guide for anybody who needs it, just so folks can have like a reminder, because it's very simple things, but in a day-to-day throes of the business, you tend to forget about them. The amount of folks we speak to on a daily basis that don't even have a profit and loss statement, which is crazy because it's the minimum requirement to even engage in a conversation for a loan. But it's also something you should know. What's your profit margin? And people are like, oh, yeah, I'm making money. Yeah, I get paid. But I'm like, the difference between getting paid and potentially making 30% more in your business is looking at those numbers and figuring out what's keeping you tied down in that setup.
Well, real quick, and to add to that, right? Another point I wanted to make. The beautiful thing about these government programs, when they roll them out, right? You don't have to use the money for the business. There's no contract or stipulation that says, hey, you have to use this loan for your business. No, you can use it for another business. You can use it to pay off your credit card debt. You can use it for whatever it's for because you're the one that's responsible for paying it back. Yeah. So, it's gonna help a lot of people get out of tight spaces.
No, that's great, especially in the situation a lot of folks are in now that it's crazy. Just today we had like 7 calls of like folks that are up to their necks in debt because they're financing everything through their personal side because everything's more expensive.
Right.
And I want to toss it over to you, D. Like, any thoughts on like, the shift that we're going to see in the marketplace, especially for small businesses? You both have lived through, this is not a political conversation. No. It's more like the reality of like, you've been through multiple iterations of governance, lack of governance, over governance, and now we're probably going to go back to a little bit more of a free market kind of approach. So I wanted to get your thoughts on like, how you think, on top of what your brother mentioned, this is just going to impact folks who are watching, or even folks who are thinking about starting a business in the next 6 to 12 months. Yeah. I mean, this is not like, it's not going to change in 30 days, but I will guarantee first week of office, like he will put some things in place that will automatically decrease certain things that are very expensive in this country. Gasoline. Yeah. I mean, there's just like, it's just the way he acts. It's just very on point in that scenario. But wanted to get your thoughts.
I think ultimately we're in a place where, and again, like this is just tying things back to like, we just came back from our trip, and even on our trip, we did rub shoulders with a lot of business owners and people that were like-minded in the way that we think, right? And one of the common denominators that like people anywhere that we've kind of been across the world, they always say like US is one of the best places, if not the best place to make money. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, the US is the best place to raise a family, or the US is the best place, because honestly, I think that exists in different parts of the world. But for making money and making bread, for me, this is the best country. And from my head, in a zoomed out perspective, I'm thinking like, bro, like now we have someone again running our business, running our country as a business. And unfortunately, yeah, obviously there's a lot of other secondary and tertiary things that are existing right now in terms of people's train of thought and the way they think and the way they want to be spoken to, whatever. But honestly, for me, just speaking for myself, those things aren't really a big deal because I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission when I go to the grocery store, when I go to Publix and it's $400, $500 a pop. I can't even order, or not that I can't, I don't want to order Uber Eats because it's $100 every time just for lunch. And it's just like, I wasn't experiencing that 4, 5, 6 years ago. And neither were you, and neither were you, and neither was the rest of the people viewing this. So now it's like, all right, at least I can mitigate the financial strain and pressure that like we currently feel, even though we are relatively well-to-do, but we also do what for a living? We're looking at minimum 20 to 25 credit reports a day, you, me, and Al. So like I'm seeing it, and there's no segregation. Like it's for everyone. Like I'll have a client that has that dentist. We literally just onboarded a dentist that has a $6,700 a month car payment that got laid on their Lamborghini. And the next client had a late payment on their Honda Civic. So it doesn't really matter how much money you're pulling in. Doesn't matter how organized or how disorganized you are. If the profit margins, like the one of you guys alluded to, if they're not where they need to be at, then what are we talking about? You're essentially just wasting your time, because if when the ledger comes at the end of the month and you have this much in profitability when you were expecting this much, and now your bills are over here and you're pulling in this much and your increasing livelihood is going up and up and up and you're not making more profitability, now you're on a mission. So at least for me, with this week's news and him coming back, I'm very happy and I'm very content, because I know what that's going to equate to in our area space with business owners like us, business owners that we deal with, putting them in a position where now the banks are going to do what? they're going to go ahead and open the doors for more products at 0%, low interest rates over 30 years, and allowing business owners like us to utilize our personal credit. And if it's not where they need to be at, like Alex said, you need to start getting on that right now. Like, I don't know, who it is that you lean on, whether it's us or another agency that you go to, but you got to get in front of it, because when the products start rolling in, you don't want to be the 100th in line out of 100 people, and then when it comes time to call your ticket, funds ran out.
Yeah. Yep.
Or they said that the person that's running the application is just like, they have so many applicants that have everything on point because you didn't want to organize, and now you're not going to get the funding. And then now there's another layer of resentment because you didn't get it or whatever, when you could have watched something as simple as this, and you're allocating your time to maybe watching other things on social media that maybe aren't advantageous to the progression of your business. But now you're in a position where you can get 100, 150, $200,000 over 30 years. You're not even going to get that on a mortgage at 3%,
Yeah.
And the other compounding factor is too, is like homes. For those of you guys that are looking to have your first home under your belt, they just lowered the interest rates. They're going to lower it again in Q1. So
they're saying like next week.
Okay, so they're going to lower it again. So the prices for any of you guys that are checking on Zillow every week, like we are, the prices have been either there or they're dropping, or they're just staying on the market. So if you come in with a nice offer, you have low interest rate, you have your down payment, you have your personal taxes done, you have everything where it needs to be at. Now you're in a position where you're not thinking, damn, I wish I was one of these people that bought a home in 2020. You are going to be one of those people. You are going to be one of those examples, because you're going to take advantage of the metrics and the timing and circumstances that make sense for what the day and age is right now versus what we've experienced the last 4 years.
That's very, very good points. And I want to shift a little bit on and get your guys' thoughts on types of businesses that thrive during, economic booms, whether it is online, specific sales kind of companies where you're product based, and thinking of the audience who's watching this, and the majority of comments we get and the feedback is folks are starting, they have an idea, but they don't know if they should start an e-commerce or they should start their own consulting practice, or they want to kind of go away from the 9-to-5 grind that is working for someone, et cetera. So I wanted to get both of your perspectives, and I can provide mine as well, having just done this in the last year and a half. But what kind of guidance can you give anybody who's thinking about those things right now in mid-November? Is there something that they should quantify or write down so that they can extrapolate those ideas? Because I know we do a lot of mind melds and we drop a bunch of stuff on a sheet of paper to see like what sticks. But we could do that because we've seen the failures. Yeah. But it's like one of those things of like, now is a really good time if you don't have a business and you know what's coming in the next 6-12 months. Like, how do they even start thinking about that idea?
I mean, look, overall, right? Let's just go based off the data. The data shows that, and not to get political, I love what you said in the beginning. Let's not make this about Democrat, Republican, all that nonsense. The facts are, when we have someone like Trump in office, the economy booms. What does that mean? That means it booms. That means that the barber's making more money. The guy that does your landscape, he has more jobs. More people want to fix up the front of their house. They're hiring the landscaper to put new plants. The electrician, he's getting more calls because people want to change the lights that are 20 years older in their house and they're updating. We saw a lot of slowing down of spending in these last 4 years. Guys, business owners I know that are making $300,000-$400,000 a month, they're like, I'm not spending any money. I'm waiting to see what happens. So you're going to see those floodgates open up. People are going to want to spend more money, and that's going to naturally make more money for everyone around you, right? Because people are spending these money in small businesses. They're going to, the local farmer's market. They're going to their barber. They're calling, the paintball store around the house and spending $2,000 on paintball guns. So everybody's making more money. The best thing to do in that scenario is, in my opinion, is have a plan. What business are you going to start? Who are you going to sell it to? How much is your cost per acquisition? How hard is it to get those clients? What does your inventory look like? Is it service? Is it inventory based? You have to check off all those boxes, but more than anything, check off the fact that you have the financial backing. Yeah. Before you dive deep into who you're going to sell your product to and who you're going to do this and how you're going to start your business, do you even have the funds?
Yeah.
to get you through a year of being in the red, because let's face it, most businesses are in the red their first year. We've done a lot of different businesses. You're in the red.
No.
The first year, the majority of business, you're in the red. So make sure you have that financial backing. Make sure you have a credit card for a year that, you know, can help you get through any bad period of time.
Yeah.
That's my advice is like, do you have the financial backing if everything goes south? Because we know that if everything goes good, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
But what if everything goes south? You know, like, what's your opinion on that? Like, how can you make sure and guarantee success in any new business you start? I mean, you never really can.
No, you can. I mean, bro, I was talking to Chris and to you last night. Like, you know, we've had to cut off many people over the years. You know, so maybe some of those people are actually watching this video right now, and you know, we're in a position already in business where we already understand like the emotional component cannot take place into the decision making that we do. It has to come from a position of objectivity and analytics, right? And for someone that's out there trying to start their own business, whatever, like for me, I never lean on doing shit myself. I did it myself in my early 20s, and you know, paid people to do this, that, and the other, whatever. And like I was making the most money, but honestly, being at the top of the mountain by yourself, it's kind of whack, number one. And number two, there's certain skill sets that each partner has or can bring to the table that like I cannot do. Like I know and I appreciate my skill sets. I know and I appreciate Alex's skill sets. I know, I appreciate and I admire your skill sets. Understanding those things, especially in the beginning, like even on our partnership, right? We've been together the last year and a half and change. And like we've had to like push away certain people. And maybe at that point in time, they don't understand it. It's not our responsibility to force them to understand it. They just need to see like, yo, this is where the train is heading. This is where your injection was. These are the things that you didn't do or lack thereof. This is where we're heading. And, you know, you do your thing, we'll do ours. Because at the end of the day, like the biggest thing we don't get back in any business, whether it's a, you know, soul partnership, whatever it is, or you're working, we don't get the time back.
Yeah.
So honestly, looking at the momentum of a certain industry that someone's trying to do, you know, how much capital they have to inject, you know, are you prepared to take a lot of losses? Are you prepared to take no's? Are you prepared to really see like who your friends really are? Because I mean, one of the things that irks me the most for real, and I laugh internally every time I see, is like when someone's holding a degree. Oh, I got my degree. You'll see 30 comments, 100 likes, whatever. You see someone open up a new business. Yo, come spend $10. We'll go buy this raffle. Crickets. And it's like, until you go and you put yourself in their face and say, hey, support me, most of the time they still won't anyways, or they're busy or whatever. So it's like, you have to really know, like, are you about this shit? Like, are you really about this business life? Are you really okay with getting doors shut on your face? Are you okay with partners fucking you over? Are you okay with losses? Are you okay with things not panning out? And are you okay with saying, these are just roadblocks. These are just barriers to separate me from the people that want it versus the people that think that they want it. And at least knowing that and having that confidence and that type of energy, it's going to translate to whatever I want at a certain juncture. It doesn't mean that I have to get from point A to point B in the way that I want it. But the point is that I'm going to get there no matter what, because I already have the time, the mental frame of mind to say nothing's going to fucking stop me. But obviously I need to have all these other organizational components on point so that I can get to my destination. It's not just going to be off of emotions the whole time, but ultimately it needs to be something where it's like, it needs to make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, bro, cut it off right then and there. Don't even leave it hanging. And, you know, we'll experience temporary, uncomfortable emotions, but in the grand scheme of things, you know,
yeah,
it's for the best of us. And, you know,
honestly,
I want to hear your relatively fresh perspective in the last year and a half, because, bro, it's like we chopped it up last night. Like,
yeah,
you know, how many things have just not panned out? Awesome. How many things have panned out? Like, we're fucking crushing. We're doing awesome. I'm super happy. I'm like, every week when we're doing these podcasts, I'm waiting for this shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I love this. I really enjoy sitting down, letting our hair down, so to speak, chopping it up, you know, speaking on the things that work, didn't work, because I know that, you know, maybe in the hour that we're speaking, even if someone can grab 5 minutes of it and it helps them understand something better or connect certain connectivity tissue that didn't exist before, now they're in a place where like, okay, God, these guys know what they're talking about. Okay, cool. Maybe I'll watch the next one. And then now from that point forward, we're building a group of like-minded individuals that are operating on that same energy capacity and same frequency that we're on right now. So
Yeah. I would say it's very similar. And one of the things I come from big technology companies where I've run chief customer officer running 1,800 people teams worldwide.
Yep.
And one of the pieces that I always remembered in that part of my life, was when you were frustrated with something, you could act, but you couldn't change it because it's not your business. Right. You get me? Like, yes, as a senior leader in these companies, I can impose certain things within my box. And that box was $1 billion budget, $2 billion budget. It depends on the place we were at. But I still needed to go to the board, there was always a layer of approval. Yep. And for the audience watching this, as you're preparing to potentially open up a business, at least my experience in the last year and a half, have we succeeded in everything? No. Is there an ability to learn from the mistakes we've made, the partners that we've partnered with that have not worked out? But that's part of partnership. I'm like, it's the same way you date somebody and it doesn't work. That's the same thing you do in business, even with clients. Sometimes clients don't work out.
Yeah,
you have
to break up with the client,
and you have to be comfortable to say it's not a good fit. Why? Because I'd rather have that conversation once than have multiple scenarios where that person, whether it's a client or a business partner, you get so heated and it just becomes emotional.
Yeah.
And I think that's, if you ask me, like over the last year and a half, like what I've learned from working with both of you and just in general about like starting these businesses is like, you're right. You're in the red, and your mindset, both of you can. Yeah. And back in January, I was like, guys, like I've been doing this for 4 months.
Yeah.
Like I had my own savings that I could. I gave myself 12 months. When it came down to like March when we started the funding consulting business, I was like, we gotta. In my head, I was like, I gotta start generating some money so that I'm not concerned about my family.
Yeah.
But in the back of my mind, I was like, we're only 7 months in.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to generate revenue, right? And then that revenue becomes expenses that are starting to get paid off. Now for like we started that DIY company in September of last year. It's self-sufficient by itself, right? Like, but we don't even touch it. Because we focus on our consulting practice now, and that's our bread and butter. And something else may open up in the next 24 hours with a conversation we're having today. So those are the type of things that I try to tell folks who ask me, and I am 100% aligned with your feedback, D, around like the amount of people who congratulated me when I was working for businesses and getting promoted and all that stuff. And then I post stuff for work and there's no comment. And
they want a discount.
I was like, what? Like, where are these people that were like, yeah, you got an award, or yeah, you were like,
it's a narrative though.
It's annoying.
You go through, 12 years of public school. The right thing to do is to take your SAT, and you take your SAT and then you qualify to go to certain universities or other community colleges. You go through the ringer there, you listen to what they have to tell you, but they're making you think within their box. They made that box. Think about how many times when you were in high school, the teacher sat down with you and said, hey, Chris, Dimitri, when you turn 18, the best thing that you can do is have your credit ready. Why? So that you can go and, lease a car at the lowest interest rate. So you're not a slave to the, banking financial institution, so that you can get around and get to a job. Or, hey, have your credit good so that you can qualify to get a small business loan to create your own business so that you don't have to work for somebody. They don't teach you those things. So unfortunately, you have to go and figure out the code to, making your own business, the code to then making money, because anybody can make their own business, but making money and making your own business are two different things.
Yeah.
We've made a ton of businesses. We've also lost on a lot. So making money is a totally different topic. And I think that you have to get in the trenches to learn how to make money, right? Like getting in, that's when you figure it out.
Yeah.
Something I wanted to touch back on was what my brother was saying, was the power of having partners. Every business I have partners. I think it's the best thing for any business owner. I have a friend of mine in the Northeast. He's like, man, you're crazy. You get into business and you do it with partners, just do it yourself. And I'm like, no, dude, I would never do that. And I'm going to give the viewers here a good example. And I don't even think you guys have really thought about the example that I'm going to bring to the table. So we're in the middle right now of signing a big deal with with, a company to go ahead and get subscribers for our credit monitoring service without going into too much details because we're in NDAs and whatever the case may be. So if you really dissect that deal, right? And again, for anybody listening, this conversation has not been pre-planned. This is on the wing. So this is how the deal started. I came to my partners. I said, guys, I have a great guy. He's going to work great with us. I think we're going to make a ton of money with him. His name is X, Y, and Z. His name's Eric. I can say his name's Eric. I was like, yo, he's my boy. I'm bringing him to the table, guys. Obviously, you guys know that's what happened.
Yeah.
Right? Brought him to the table. My brother, like the fucking architect that he is, figures out a way for us to make a new avenue of income with this guy. Right? Boom. My brother figures out the way to make money with him. Then what does Chris do? Chris comes in the middle of the deal with his corporate background and his university, knowledge of creating spreadsheets and this and that, and adds value to that deal. So if you look at 100% of what it took that deal to come through, I did 33. My brother had the idea. He did his 33. And then now Mariano Rivera, the closer for the Yankees, comes in, closes the deal, brings the corporate background. So that's the beauty of having partners, guys. Yes, you're going to have to split your pot with a couple other guys. Cool, I'm down for that. Because I know the pot is going to be exponentially bigger for working in business with you guys. So, that's a very big thing for me. I'm happy you brought that up because I love being in business with people. I love having multiple partners. I love being a part of different things. And more than anything, I love watching a relationship flourish into actual dollars. And we're kind of living that right now in the middle of that deal.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing to watch because I get goosebumps thinking about it, man. It's like we're all playing our position so well right now. And like, there's no clashing. There's no, I hate quote unquote dick measuring or whatever that another way you want to call it. It's just everybody in sync.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful opera in harmony, in synchrony, playing
multiple instruments.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I feel like that's one of the, and you see it, and going back to like your reference around schools, etc. I think sports in general, like I grew up playing sports, all the way I coached in college and everything. I'm like, one of the things that always resonated is there's only certain sports where it's an individual: golf, tennis, bowling, swimming.
Yeah.
And then there's now like, other like,
Boxing,
sports,
breakdancing,
UFC.
But I'm like, but all those sports, yeah. But I'm like, if you look at it compared to the highest grossing individuals in those sports, besides boxing and not even that much UFC, like it's a team effort and everybody plays a role. And that's not because it's a system. That's because there's specific skill sets to play first base. Like if you ever play first base, it's probably one of the toughest positions. And you look at the guy and they're always massive, but they have the flexibility that you can never find anywhere else.
They're doing fucking splits.
The same thing with Mariano Rivera. There is no more pressure than coming in the ninth inning in Yankee Stadium and closing out in a World Series. And that guy did it for 20 plus years.
Yeah, years on end.
And I'm like, that's the frames, the same frame set that I put myself in our business model is I may not be the closer all the time, but when I'm asked or when I see an opportunity, I don't even ask. I just start building something and I share it with you guys. Like I shared something today for that conversation we had this afternoon. None of you asked me to do it.
Yep.
None of you potentially thought about it, but I was like, how do I frame this in a way where it's visible and viewable to the person who's going to say, this is great. This actually makes sense. Let's start tomorrow.
Well, also like, I think you're one of the people that like just takes initiative. Like no one has to come to you and tell you, yo, Chris, make this look pretty, make this make sense. Chris, this is where we're at in the deal. Like you just figure out how to add value. I think me and my brother do that as well. We just figure out how to add value, whether it be through sales, whether it be through helping customers get deletions on their credit file, helping people get, bigger credit limits on their credit cards and their loans. We all figure out how to add value. But most importantly, the reason why I think we're working so well with each other is because I'm not trying to be the best at everything. Neither is D and neither are you. Like you're playing your position, I'm playing mine, and so is D. And then we just come together after the World Series and we celebrate. So, that's why I think we're working so well with one another. But it's just, it's beautiful to watch. It really is.
No, and I agree. And I would say I'll add one thing to like what folks, if they're thinking about starting a business, et cetera, is contracts and negotiations
Operating agreements,
are I'm like, it is a skill set, but it's one that you can only learn if you actually start practicing. You negotiate with your family, you negotiate with your kids. I'm like, you'd be surprised, like, you know, and that's one of my skill sets is when we're doing contracts and negotiating with people who are hard-headed or stern, I have a unique ability to like diffuse whatever like detractor that they're putting in front of us, just because I've done it so many times at much higher levels.
Right.
And that has nothing to do with like, oh, this business did more money or anything. It's just people, when you're negotiating, it's a relationship, right? It's like you give and you take. Both sides have to benefit. Once I know that both sides are benefiting, the negotiation is the easiest part.
Yeah.
Like now, if you're starting from a position where we're 90% benefiting and they're 10, like what the hell are you negotiating at that point, right? Like there's no negotiation. It's just a dictatorship at that point. But I would recommend anybody watching this as part of your plan, like what product are you bringing to market, but then also like what partners or potential vendors are you going to need? And then just start calling and see like, what's your price? If you're doing an e-com and you're doing shirts or hats, whatever you decide, like start calling and call one and be like, oh, this person told me it's 70 cents a hat. You know, can you do 65 if I do 1,000? And then just see how they react. And if they close the door, call the next person. And then you just build that. It's an internal switch that a lot of folks turn off because the no's are hard.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter in what part of the relationship, whether negotiating products, negotiating with a client to come on as a client, whatever the case may be, that's the hardest part. I want to now shift a little bit. We're still staying in tune with the conversation about small businesses and the next, incoming president. But if I gave you both binoculars that you can see 12 to 18 months out, what are you seeing from an entrepreneur perspective? And I'm not talking about like a business. I'm talking about just in general. Like you can look 12 to 18 months even within your like perspective. What do you think you'll see through those binoculars?
For us?
Yeah.
I mean, just using us, and going back to that relationship component, like that for me is the biggest thing for everything. Like even the meeting we're gonna have now in a couple of hours for that big deal we're closing, that big deal that we're closing is off the heels of another big deal that we closed a few months ago.
Yeah.
And the inception of that was I was sitting with Alex in the townhouse, and we were playing FIFA, and I was getting annoyed at the credit monitoring that we were with right now. And I'll never forget, I go, watch, I'm gonna get 6 figures from these people for the 3 of us.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what happened. And then now we're rinsing and repeating those efforts. So in terms of where we're gonna be at, I think where are we at right now versus 12 to 18 months ago with the leadership that we had in the country, and now with the shifted approach that the new president's going to have, and looking at our country as a business, I honestly see 2 to 4x multipliers for us in this room. For us, I honestly think for real we're going to add at least on a monthly basis 1, if not 2, maybe 3 zeros on a monthly basis in terms of our profitability. I think the floodgates are going to open. I think that our standard operating procedures are getting more and more tight and more efficient as each day progresses. I think that the 3 of us as a group are learning more things that are conducive to the betterment of us as a group and the betterment of our clients as well. And I really have high hopes for anyone who is in our energy field and understands the type of products that we're pushing on them, where we're trying to help them, and how we see their unique situation, where they are and where they need to kind of be at. So I think that the next 12 to 18 months, as long as we tie our shoes and we shoot in the gym every single day, like we always say to each other, I think we're going to be in a position where we're going to have Christmas every month. For me, like that's honestly, that's where my head is at. And for me, the competition, I'm not competing with someone outside of this building here. I'm competing with myself, and I try to maintain that energy. And you guys know, and sometimes it's all, honestly, it's too much, but I'd rather be ultra competitive in everything that we do, whether it's business in here or when we're playing FIFA at night, the 3 of us. That's just the way it is, bro. I like being competitive, and I think that if a person can have that mentality, I think the next 12 to 18 months, they can do whatever it is that they have in their head that they can achieve. I honestly really think that. And because everything is going to stem from a conversation or a text message you put us in or an email. It's all interconnected. So in reality, looking at the roadmap to success is just as important, if not way more important, as the actual destination or the milestone itself. Because yeah, getting the $1 million mark in a calendar year or 10 or 15 or whatever it is an amazing accomplishment, but we cannot lose focus of the plateaus, the moments where we're, shit sucks, the moments where things don't go our way, the moments where we forget why we're doing this, because the destination is important, but when it's all said and done, all the pieces of the board game go back into the box. So we have to appreciate the journey as much as the destination.
That makes 100% sense. Anything to add, Al? Or are you good?
No, I don't have anything to add there. I think that he said it as best as possible. What I would like to touch on is forget about us. Where do we see the country in 12 to 18 months on business owner standpoint, right? I think that's a great, because I can't say anything better than what my brother said. We need to talk about right now what people are doing to be in the position to win. The best way, in my opinion, that you can win in the next 12 to 18 months is having capital. Working capital on your side, there's going to be massive investment opportunities. Forget all the noise that you're hearing of China's switching to the yen. They're not trading in US dollars. The US dollar is king. Make no mistake, people want the US dollar. It's going to skyrocket now. It's not going to deplete, in my opinion. Whoever is in the position and has money to invest in the next 12 to 18 months will become rich for a long time. Let's look at data. I'm a big data guy. 2008, the economy crashed. A lot of people, they didn't have a job, whatever the case may be. A lot of people made life-changing money then. The way they made life-changing money was they had money or they had credit, and they went and bought property for dirt cheap, and they're sitting on that property now 15, 20 years later, and the property has multiplied by 10x or whatever it has done. The same thing goes for businesses. Yeah. If you have money to buy out businesses, to invest in businesses, when there's blood on the street, you're going to make a lot of money when things skyrocket. Trump hasn't even won in office. He didn't even get elected president, and Bitcoin skyrocketed like 10%. There was $1 trillion or $1 billion added into the stock market in one day.
Yeah, he's not in office yet.
And he's not even in office yet. Yeah. So me personally as a business owner, I'm already in the kitchen cooking how I can have access to $1 million.
Yeah.
I'm here thinking okay, I need to pay off every credit card I have on the business side, every line of credit. I want to have everything paid off to zero. Run it back. Scared money doesn't make any fucking money. Don't get that mistaken. You need to take risks. You cannot be afraid. You got to get out there and you have to throw darts at the board. Sitting here twiddling your fingers, waiting for someone to tell you, yes, the time is right. It's never going to happen. You have to be the shot caller. You got to take those risks. And the only way that you can take those risks, unfortunately, is if you have capital.
Yeah.
You can't take risks if you don't have capital because there's nothing to risk. So my advice, and this just goes to myself and my partners, get your credit right. Have those relationships with the banks now, because when there's blood on the streets, which there will be a massive opportunities coming. You're going to want to have the money to be able to invest or have the credit. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have a lot of personal expenses. I got 4 kids at home. I have a stay-at-home wife. So my savings isn't always what the next man is because I have a lot of expenses. So how do I play on the same playing field? My credit's always 800, Pops. Yeah. So when I need to go get $100,000, I don't need to get it from my savings account. I go knock on Wells Fargo. Hey, give it to me at 7%. I'm going to go make 30% on the deal. So I made 23%. I gave 7 to Wells Fargo, but I'd rather give 7% to Wells Fargo than give it to a loan shark or an investor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just advice for anybody listening. None of us here are Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett, but we're very successful in what we do. We've all ran $1 million companies. We all own and operate multiple $1 million companies. Our advice, I speak for my guys, have your credit right, be ready to be able to invest, have the relationships with the banks so that when you need that capital to pull the trigger, you're ready to go.
And the third one is scared money don't make money. So, I want to wrap up here because I think we've hit on a bunch of great points. And again, our focus is to help small business owners just excel, learn, and be able to take tidbits from what we discuss every week. We're going to start having some guests come on the podcast, which we're really excited about. We wanted to get the flow going with, 4 or 5 episodes with just us so everybody can understand where we're centered at. this is a good, I would say, launch pad to start inviting. And we already have, guests lined up. So I'm really excited for that phase of our podcast. And any questions that anybody has, please drop it in the comment section below. You can DM us on our socials. We'll post them in the descriptor as well. And thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned for more content from us in episode 5. I appreciate you guys and have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you.